Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. We're about exactly a month away from the NHL All-Star Game in Toronto. So I figured, who are the Coyotes going to send as their representative? Each team is going to send one representative for 32 players. And then it's going to be a fan vote for 12 extra players for a pool of 44 players. And you could probably bet your bottom dollar that no fans are going to vote for a Coyotes player to be one of those 12 extra players. I'm sure that's reserved for superstars around the league. So I wonder who's going to be the all-star for the Coyotes. Previously, it's been Keller for 3 years straight, 2023, 2022, 2019. Obviously, there was no all-star game in 2021 and 2020. Then we had OEL before Keller and Mike Smith in 2017, who had that heroic performance in the All-Star game at the skills competition where he scored from his own goal line into the opposite net, into this little hole. One of the best moments for Coyotes fans in the past decade. You can see how dark it's been during the past decade. And in 2016, the Coyotes had no representative. If you remember that fiasco with John Scott, where John Scott was voted into the NHL All-Star game, which is probably why they stopped doing fan voting and only started to do it again for this season in 2024. But yeah, John Scott was voted. He's a fourth line, healthy scratch type NHL player. He was on the Coyotes. And then the NHL forced the Coyotes to trade John Scott to Montreal, where Montreal demoted him to the American Hockey League to make him ineligible for the All-Star game. But the NHL was forced to send John Scott. That trade was about 2 weeks before the All-Star game in 2016. So John Scott goes to the All-Star game, has a great performance, and is actually voted MVP for the All-Star game. So a bad look for the NHL, and the Coyotes were sort of cheaped out of that experience with no representative. So who's going to be the representative this year? I have these players in order who I think should go. And number one is Connor Ingram with 4 shutouts on the season, a 13-7 win-loss record, and amazing goalie stats right here. .919 save percentage and a .249 goals against average. Now for this All-Star game, it's no longer the divisions being playing against each other, so there's no real rule of how many goalies a division can send. It's going to be a pool of players, so you could see all goalies come from one division and then a bunch of forwards and defensemen from another division. If it was like Central versus Pacific versus Metro and Atlantic, maybe Ingram and Hellebuyck would go as a goalie representatives, but it's different this year, so it's hard to predict. Mentioning Hellebuyck, he is the only other goaltender in the Central Division with numbers better or on par with Ingram. Hellebuyck, these stats were taken Sunday morning, has a .919 save percentage and a .234 goals against average with 17 wins on the season. You might think to yourself, oh, Dallas has Ottinger, and what about Saros on Nashville? Well, Ottinger is injured. He got injured mid-December. He's listed as week to week, so I don't think Dallas is going to be too privy to send him to the All-Star game. But his numbers, he's got a .901 save percentage and a .293 goals against average, going 11 wins, 7 losses on the season. So Ingram's got better numbers than Ottinger. And Saros, I also think he's great, but his numbers this season, not too great. He also has a .901 save percentage, a .302 goals against average, and a 15-13 win-loss record. So Ingram, he's up there and one of the better goaltenders in the league. However, they could send, a bunch of other superstar goalies from other divisions, and then they don't need another goalie in Ingram. So then you would move on to players that the Coyotes have. And I think Michelli should go. If Ingram's not going to go, I honestly think Michelli's the next best guy to go. Leads the team in assists, 6 goals, 21 assists, 27 points on the season. The reason why I want him to go, he's an elite passer in the league, an elite playmaking guy, and he could really show the league that he's a very, very underrated elite passer and playmaker in the league. Play him with superstars and just see what happens. It's also a bit of a redemption tour for Michelli, who was heavily snubbed in the Calder finalist voting last season for best rookie in the NHL. Matty Beniers, Owen Power, and Stuart Skinner were the Calder finalists for the Calder Trophy, and they're all having really poor seasons. Matty Beniers for Seattle, 5 goals, 13 assists for 18 points in 35 games played. Owen Power, he's a defenseman. I have not heard his name at all this season, so maybe being a bit hard on him here, but 14 points in 36 games played. And Stuart Skinner, the goaltender for Edmonton, an .891 save percentage, .291 goals against average, so really poor goaltending numbers there. So Michelli is doing better than the finalists that were ahead of him, and he's outpacing his numbers from last season to this season. He even took a step further and is even better than last season. I was very worried that he was going to suffer a sophomore slump. I thought teams would be harder on him, notice him a bit more, have his name on the whiteboard in their visitor dressing room or home dressing room, circling his name. Watch out for this guy. He's an elite passer, but Michelli's still making these great passing plays to this day and having better numbers than last season. Then we go to Keller, third-time All-Star. This would be the safe pick for me. You know, the All-Star Game's more of a mainstream event. I don't watch the All-Star Game. It's probably since 2017 since I've watched an All-Star Game. But Keller leads the team in points, 31 points in 35 games played, 13 goals, 18 assists. Everyone who is outside of Coyotes fandom just probably knows Keller as the only player on the team. So he's a familiar name. He's an NHL household name. He's young, skilled, creative, fast. He's comfortable going to All-Star games since he's been 3 times. So that would be the safe pick for me to send Keller and for the NHL to pick Keller. And then we go to Krause, who leads the team in goals, 16 goals, 7 assists, 23 points. This would be a funny pick. Obviously, I would say Krause would be very out of place in the All-Star game. Krause is a fantastic 5-on-5 player, goes to the front of the net, goes to the house area, the slot area, receives amazing passes from Michelli and just one-times them in front of the net. He's just a great, smart player who gets shots off in a hurry. I don't think that's going to translate well to a 3-on-3 competition with superstars who like to make plays and not really score. And it's a bit of an effortless competition where Krause is all about being competitive and being a hard-working player. So he'd be out of place, but it would be funny if we see Krause there at the All-Star game. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.